This video is about our podcast. We are about to do a very long series of podcasts. And the larger title is 40 Things That Working in Over 40 Different Japanese Private Schools Has Taught Me. It's a very long title. But anyway, I have lived and worked in Japan and worked in many Japanese schools for a very long time. And I've learned some things, and so that's what this podcast series is going to be about. You should check it out. The name of the podcast is Learn with Peter, the Learn with Peter podcast. You can find lots of other podcast materials there as well. And also, if you want to look at supporting materials relating to that podcast, you can go to mydesk.learnwithpeter.com to find those materials as well. Anyway, we look forward to working with you. But I should talk a little bit more about why I'm making this series of podcast episodes. So 10 years ago, I was working in my third Japanese school, and my boss asked me if I would write a curriculum for all of the teachers. And what I mean by this is I had a boss through an agency that had placed me in that school, and he wanted me to make a curriculum for all of the gaijin teachers at the schools. Well, I told him that was something I could do, but it probably wouldn't solve the problem that he's trying to solve, and that was that we don't really know, or we didn't really know, what was happening in these schools. So we needed to go to these schools and get to know these schools and get to know the teachers that are working in these schools. And I learned a lot by doing this. So he hired me full-time to go from school to school to school and get to know our teachers, but also to get to know the Japanese teachers at those schools. The number one thing I learned, and this is what the first podcast is going to be about, number one, Japanese English teachers are generally very good at their jobs. Maybe if you don't live in Japan, this is not something that surprises you to hear. People, at least when I was growing up, I was always hearing about how Japanese culture cared so much more about education. But as soon as I came to Japan, I encountered people who were professional English teachers, foreigners who were professional English teachers, and they were always floored by the fact that Japanese kids were not really learning how to speak English. This was not and never has been the fault of Japanese English teachers. There's a simple rule. If you need it, you learn it. If you don't need it, you don't learn it. It is very, very hard to teach kids to speak a second language if you live in a culture where that second language isn't genuinely needed for success in life. That's why so many Americans can't speak a second language. Up until now, it has been true that you don't really get that much further in life by speaking a second language in Japan. That has changed. Many people are discovering that if they can speak English, they have a lot more career opportunities. And surprise, surprise, many, many more Japanese people are getting good at speaking English. The other thing is, Japanese English teachers have gotten better, but they were never that bad. They have a profound understanding of grammar, and they have an approach to teaching English that is customized to a situation where you are working with kids that might not ever need English. So there's a lot of focus on the text and getting good at reading English and deciphering the text through grammar translation. Now that is changing because the demands are changing, and also because a lot of Japanese are going abroad and studying abroad and getting exposed to world cultures and bringing that interest back to Japan. So if you're Japanese and you have this notion that your teachers up to now have not been very good, let go of that idea. They probably taught you a very thorough grasp of English grammar. That is really important. That's really important. And we, as we work with you, can use that knowledge to help move you further forward. Be proud of the English education that you have had so far. It is much better than the foreign language education that, say, Americans have had. Anyway, that's what our first episode is going to be about. Keep listening, and we look forward to working with you. Bye-bye.